Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Stogie Review video review. This week I have another short ashes review for you, and it almost got botched before I even turned the camera on. I was digging through one of my coolers, and I knew I had a little more than half a box of Fuentes down the bottom. They're the Chateau Fuentes. They're naturals. And I knew they were tucked away down there because I bought them a couple of years ago. I think it was about 2 years ago. I ordered them from Tinderbox, and they were having some sort of Friends of Tinderbox promotion, and I got a discount code for something like 20% off. So I ended up ordering a box. The first couple I smoked were just duds. I couldn't get any smoke through them. They were plugged. They weren't burning properly, and I got kind of irritated with them and just tucked them away. I figured they needed a little bit of time. So some time went on, and I tried another one, and same thing, and I got frustrated with them, and I put them back. And then eventually I did end up talking to, I think I talked to a Fuente rep, and he was telling me, oh, just take them back to wherever you bought them, they'll take care of it. And at the time, I remember the email specifically because I thought to myself, who in the right mind is going to take a box of cigars back that I bought 7 months ago that I'm having problems with? So I stuck it back in the cooler and just ignored it. And a couple of months later, I ended up trying a few more, and I started getting good ones all of a sudden. So I guess the entire box wasn't a dud, just the first 5 or 6 out of the box. But anyway, I grabbed one of those cigars out, and I was all ready to start the recorder and get the review started. And I thought to myself, you know what, I better check the website, make sure that we've done this review, or done this cigar in detail before I get started. And sure enough, we haven't done it. So can't do a short ashes review on a cigar that you haven't reviewed in the past. So I tossed it aside, and I dug around in another cooler, just looking for random stuff. It's fun sometimes. You dig around and you find something that was buried in the bottom and didn't even know you had. And that's actually what this cigar is. And I was kind of excited to see it because I was very impressed with some of the other cigars I've had from them. And this is the Dona Flor. Now, if you remember Tom and Ed, they rave about Dona Flor cigars. I've enjoyed the Dona Flor as well as the Alonso Menendez. And this cigar is actually from back around early 2007, maybe late 06. But this cigar was before there was problems between Dona Flor and Dona Flor. I remember, if you remember, back around the time of IPCPR, there were probably a couple of us talking on camera. I think it was Brian, Jerry, and myself. I don't think we had a guest on at that point in time, but we had made mention that there were 2 Dona Flor booths. There was one over by Don Pepin, and there was one over in the New Exhibitors area. There were 2 separate companies. And basically what happened was the company that was producing the cigars thought that they had the rights for the company, and the company that did have the rights sold to another company or something along those lines. So basically you had 2 people that were arguing over the name Dona Flor, and they ended up going to the show. And I don't know whatever came from that, but I know there was a review that Tom and Ed did a little while ago which talked about the situation, because Ed got a letter from his Dona Flor rep explaining some of the situation and ensuring him that he could continue to get his Dona Flor product from him. But this was before all that drama, and I'm interested to see how it goes. It's got a Brazilian Matafina wrapper on it. There we go. But this has got a Brazilian Matafina wrapper. It's a Brazilian cigar. It comes from a company in Brazil. And I think the majority of the tobacco is also Brazilian. The review that is done, it was done by Brian Tipton. I didn't do this review. I have smoked some of these. And it was before we switched over to a format where we were listing cigar statistics. So I'm sort of reading through the first paragraph briefly to see if there's anything in here worth telling you as far as the statistics go. Aside from this is a Robusto, which is a 5x52, which actually doesn't quite feel that big. But that's what the information says, because I got the same samples that Brian did. So with that said, let's get this thing underway before it gets too long. Just looking over the cigar, it's kind of rough. There are some hesitation marks in that seam that spirals up the cigar. Actually, there's a couple of little notches where it looks like someone stopped and had a little bit of a tear and cleaned it up. There's some lifting along that seam. There are a number of medium-sized veins. It feels very lumpy in the hands. Giving it a little pinch, it's very soft down towards the foot. It firms up a little bit as I go. There are several soft spots. There's one right below the band that's fairly large. Yeah, it feels kind of soft, kind of spongy. It looks very rough. I don't know, judging by appearance only, this probably wouldn't draw my eye to make me pick it up at a local shop, but it's not always in the looks. The draw is very loose. It's actually too loose. There's virtually no resistance, which concerns me a little bit. There's a cold flavor there. I'm not sure what how I would describe that flavor. It's sort of chocolatey, sort of not. But anyway, let's get started here. So anyway, while I light my cigar, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back and get into the first third of my Dona Flor, and we'll see how the cigar goes. So sit tight. Alright, well, welcome back. I'm plugging along on my Dona Flor, and as you can see, I've got a burn line that's a little wavy. The ash has got a nice, tight, compacted appearance to it. It's fairly light. There's some dark bands in there. In some spots in the ash, you can see where it was a little underfilled or a little spongy. You can see a little like a little missing chunk of ash, or just what looks like a small hollow spot. Burn line is thin, a little wavy, but you know, it appears to be under control. The pre-light draw that seemed too loose for my liking, it isn't so bad. I mean, you get a lot of smoke because of it being so loose. I feel like I'm smoking a cigar a little fast because of it, but it was kind of a surprise because I really expected a very airy smoke, nothing dense, because how much air was coming through the cigar. A lot of times when that happens and the draw is just too free, I don't feel like there's any kind of smoke density. It's just all air. But in this case, I'm getting a nice dense smoke. The ash is holding on for a little over an inch, and firm tap over the ashtray knocks it off. I get a nice conical shape. Everything's burning properly. Fillers burning well in proportion to the wrapper and the binder and whatnot. In the body department, this is probably medium, maybe the upper end of medium. The finish is kind of dry. It's fairly long. It's you know, it's not offensive, but it's a little aggressive. And what I mean by that is, especially across the palate, the roof of the mouth, I'm getting almost like an acidic sort of feel, where my palate's just getting tired from the smoke flowing across it, and just makes me feel a little worn out. And it's just sort of an aggressive quality that the smoke has. In the flavor department, I'm getting sort of a chocolate flavor out of it, but it's almost like dry cocoa powder, because there isn't any creaminess to it. There's not much sweetness to it. It's just sort of dry, and it's got this chocolate sort of appeal to it. Aside from that, the base flavor is just very sort of musty. It just seems to be like a natural tobacco flavor that's just, it's got that same sort of musty aroma that, I don't know, so you pull something out of your attic that's been up there for a couple of years, it sort of has that musty, damp smell to it. I'm getting the same out of this. It's probably best to describe that as sort of an earthy aroma. It's not bad. It's an interesting flavor. I could see myself getting tired of it fairly quickly. But so far, I gotta say, so far the cigar's mediocre. It's not really thrilling me. I think it may have been a bad choice for this early in the morning. Although again, it's not very early in the morning. It's 10:30. But it's my first cigar of the day, and selecting it as a first cigar of the day, it's a little aggressive. It's a little fuller than I generally smoke this early in the morning, and you know, as a result, I'm not so thrilled about it as I would something a little milder. But it's certainly not smoking bad. But again, it's nothing thrilling, and it's not a dud either. It's just sort of mediocre at this point. So with that said, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back. We'll dive into the second third of my Dona Flor by, I don't even know if it's made by Cigars of Brazil anymore. But anyway, I'm smoking a Dona Flor. I'll be back for the second third in just a minute. Alright, well, welcome back. I'm plugging away on my Dona Flor, and it's about time for the second third. Let's see if I can just focus. As you can see, the burn line is relatively even. The ash has got a little bit of a flaking and crumbling appearance to it. It holds on pretty well, and takes a firm tap to knock it off the end of the cigar. And just like before, as soon as I do, I get a little bit of a conical shape to the end, where the Ligero in the center in the filler is burning slower than everything else, and you get that little bit of a cone. Burn line is thin. It's a little wavy, but relatively even across the cigar. The body is, it's still about medium, maybe a heavier side of medium, not quite medium to full. The finish is still dry. It's not overwhelmingly dry, but it really is enough to sort of make you smack your lips and try to generate some sort of wetness. The flavors, I'm still getting that sort of dry cocoa powder like flavor out of it, where the dry finish is just adding to it, and it's again, it's still sort of moderate. You know, I'm not jumping for joy over this cigar, but at the same time, I'm not pitching it either. It's sort of middle of the road. In addition to this sort of a chocolate powder flavor, or a cocoa powder flavor, I'm still getting that sort of mustiness. I don't know, it's like a dense earthy flavor. It is the primary focus of the cigar. It has become a little more apparent as I've burned through. That sort of dry cocoa powder flavor has backed off a little bit, but both are still very apparent. I'm not getting much else in terms of the flavors. The draw is still fairly loose. I'm getting a wonderful amount of smoke, and the density is great. You know, it's easy to get a nice thick mouthful of smoke with just a small puff. But at the same time, the cigar's burning a little fast because of it. The resting smoke is a little heavy. It's a little offensive. It's irritating my eyes and my nose. But because the cigar is sort of middle of the road, in that I'm not disliking it and I'm not jumping for joy, there's really not a whole lot to discuss about the cigar. I mean, it's not very exciting. The band on this one is different from the ones that I've seen in production lately, and basically that is that this doesn't have the picture of the woman on it. And if you find the Dona Flor website, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I really don't know if this is the same blend that you can buy today or not. I'd be interested to find out, because some of the other ones I've had were, I thought they were a little better. But then again, those weren't quite as old as this one. I think the issue here might have been that they were sitting, I got this sample from a guy named Paul Arneson, who was working for Cigars of Brazil back around early 07, late 06. And they were sent to myself, Jerry, and Brian Tipton. This was before Brian Hewitt was even on board. So this has been sitting around a little while. As a result, it may have just mellowed out too much from sitting 2 years or whatever it was. And and as a result, you know, I'm getting less flavor than I remembered out of other samples. It's just, it could be a case of overaging, where the cigar's just mellowed too much for my liking. But that's where I stand right now with the Dona Flor. So I'm going to take another quick break. I'll be back. We'll do the final third. I'll wrap up the cigar and let you go on your way. Alright, well, welcome back. It's about time to wrap up my Dona Flor. And as you can see, the burn line is not bad. Slightly wavy. It's thin. Ash is fairly light in color. It's compacted. I'm getting a little bit of flaking here and there, but nothing real big. I did have the ash fall on my shirt, and because of the material of the shirt, I burnt a nice 52 ring gauge size O in the shirt. Didn't burn clear through it, but it's a clear circle. So that was you know, the highlight of my Dona Flor. The flavor profile is more or less the same. It's still got this sort of dry cocoa powder flavor. It's subsided quite a bit, and you know, that earthy flavor, the sort of musty flavor, really stands out in the final third. The finish is still dry, and you know, that's probably the most unappealing part of the cigar. The dry sort of cocoa flavor taste, along with the dry finish. I don't know, it makes for a combination that I'm not real happy with. Just in that I feel so dried out. You know, I don't like overly dry cigars, so you got the flavor and the finish coming together, and it's too dry. I didn't hate the cigar. Again, I still think it was mediocre. It's something I would smoke again some point down the line. I wouldn't go seeking them out, and I certainly wouldn't turn one down if one was offered to me. The burning characteristics were pretty well. I mean, aside from the ash falling on my shirt one time, it was pretty well in control. I didn't get a whole lot of flaking. You know, there were some pieces of ash floating around, but it wasn't too bad overall. The draw was very loose, or not. It wasn't overly loose, but it was loose enough that the smoke rate of the cigar seemed to be fairly quick. The density of the smoke was surprisingly thick. You know, with the draw being so loose, I really expected a thin, airy smoke, but you know, I got a good volume of thick smoke, which was good. Density was easy enough to get through the sinuses, lingers around the room, you can blow smoke rings with it, all that good stuff. As far as the price point goes, you know, I really don't know what it is. And just pull up Brian's review. And because it was a sample, I don't know that we ever got a price point on it. I mean, I didn't look through the whole review. I just looked at the first two paragraphs, and I'm not seeing a price. I'm not seeing a dollar sign anywhere or numbers, so it doesn't look like that we have a price point on them. And I don't know if it's changed since the dispute with Dona Flor and Cigars of Brazil, or whoever the dispute was through. Those two companies. I don't know whether the price point went up, came down, or if it's maintained the same price. But again, you know, I think that Brazilian cigars have a unique flavor profile to them. It's an interesting cigar. It's not overly complex in that it held my attention and whatnot, but it certainly wasn't bad. So you know, hopefully I'll be able to get some of the newer Dona Flor and see how they compare, whether or not they are in fact, you know, this type of cigar, or if it's more along the lines of what I remembered, in that they were more flavorful, a little creamier and whatnot. You know, I think if the flavor profile was a little creamier instead of so dry, you know, I think I would think much higher of this cigar than I do as it is. But there you have it. That's the Dona Flor by Cigars of Brazil. So until next time, happy smoking.